Dr. Melanie Gray is a PhD prepared nurse, a trauma informed care expert, and confidence coach who helps high achieving professionals, especially women in healthcare leadership, break free from burnout, self doubt, and imposter syndrome so they can lead with clarity and courage. Drawn on over 20 years in healthcare leadership, higher education, and organizational development, she now delivers coaching, keynotes, and training that blend nervous system science, self compassion, and practical tools to build resilience, psychological safety, and genuinely caring workplace cultures. There's a lot there. Thank you so much for joining. I've really
Well,
enjoyed our
thank
conversation
you. It's
already. So.
because I've lived long.
Well, we both have. We both lived a life, and I guess, yeah. It was funny. We were just talking about children and stuff, and I guess even though my 16-year-olds and 19-year-old probably don't think I know anything, I have lived a little bit, and I think as they get older, they'll probably realize we do know something after all.
Oh, they
Um,
will, because
yeah,
life will beat them in the head. My grandmother used to say, "Just keep living," and she said, "A hard head make a soft butt." She said, "I don't have to argue with you for nothing. You'll be back." And
yeah,
and she really was right about that. I think the difference too for young people is that your kids have other voices in their head. I mean, they talk to you in a minute amount of time, but they're getting feedback from social media, from text messaging, uh, viral reels, YouTube. Things are coming at them 24 hours a day, and it does dilute your voice as a parent, but
yeah,
it does not. I don't believe that dilute the relationship. So parents just have to hang in there. My
mm,
mother had no competition. The only voice in my head was my mother's. Because there wasn't any, and my father, that there wasn't social media. There weren't other people coming at me, other voices that had more authority in my mind than them. So it does make a difference. But they'll come back. They'll get it.
yeah. I was just thinking about that. So when you and I both grew up in a time where we didn't have smartphones, there wasn't social media, there wasn't the internet as such. Are you glad you grew up and you were a teenager in that time versus how teenagers have to grow up today?
I am absolutely glad.
Yeah, same, same.
I
I'll be honest.
am, because there've always been mean girls, right? There's always been mean kids. And I was that kid that was totally teased. I was gorky. I was skinny. I had the big black, I mean, all the things that kid that gets teased, but they didn't have at me when I left school. And so outside of school, I had other things where I did excel. I excelled in my church community, my faith community. I was in a drama group. So I had other people that fed into me. So
Mm,
school and the taunting at school, it had its place, but it kind of rolled off of me because I had other things. It didn't shape how I saw myself.
yeah,
And it gave me that time in that part of my youth to build my confidence in other areas, where now kids are mean and they can get at you all day long, and they can distort you in ways that hurt. When I was growing up, you probably remember that as well. Talk is cheap, and sticks and stones can break my
yeah,
bones, right? But words can never hurt me. And when kids are showing pictures, and their sticks are a lot different now, and
yeah,
I didn't have to encounter that. But there've always been mean kids. But the fact that they didn't have 24-hour access, and the volume of kids, because now it's not just a girl in your classroom or so that's picking on you. It's They can gang up on you with through social media, and that's more harmful to kids. So I don't regret not having experienced that.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it must be very, very hard now. But one thing you've spoken about is growing up in a home where you needed to be patient and attuned to others from a very young age. I wondered how those early experiences of needing to be patient and understand others. How did that shape your
Well, yeah.
sensitivity?
So my mother, so I'm afraid my dad grew up in 19 was born in 1927. My mom in 1935. So they grew up during Jim Crow,
Yeah,
intense segregation, uh, and racism in the United States. So for me, so family was everything. You you served your family, and we were multi generational. because the one house would care for all the kids, So it was multi-gener, and we had to care for each other. So when I was younger, they, and I had my relatives got older, my mother would say, "Well, go clean your auntie's house, and you better clean it like you clean my house." So I knew what that meant. That means I even had to dust the leaves on the plants. Don't leave any dust. But what that taught me was how to care for others and how to be kind, how to be sensitive. Because when you were caring and dusting and cleaning and doing whatever they sent you to go do, you were still talking and in relationship and hearing the stories of what they had encountered and what they learned as young people. So they were imparting uh, messages, life messages into me. And
Mm.
I didn't understand it until much later what they were saying, but they were imparting wisdom to me. So it gave me patience because one, I had to learn how to serve. Two, I had to learn how to honor what my mother said. And even if I didn't like it, I was a smart aleck teenager like everybody else, You become brilliant at 13. You can't even buy a roll of toilet tissue and you're brilliant, right? But, I was a smart aleck teenager too, but I understood that it was my mother and I needed to honor and respect her and that you don't have to like everything you do. So I think there were lessons in the upbringing that helped me as an adult because when you get in a job, you don't like everything you do. When you have a supervisor, you don't like every one of them, but you learn how to serve, right? You learn how to serve because it's your integrity. So at a point, I think how they raised me to serve and help others and be active in my church helped me build my identity and understand how I wanted to be known, how I
Mm.
wanted to show up in life.
Mm. If your grandparents were able to see America today, what do you think will be the thing that surprised them the most about how?
I
Not. I'm not. I don't mean technology and planes and that sort of stuff. I mean
well, not it.
from a societal behavior point of view. What do you think would surprise them the most?
I think that they would be appalled at how people treat each other, at how there's so much swearing and cursing everywhere. They would be appalled that people would, as African Americans, how far we've fallen in terms of being as far as community, building
Mm.
community, living community, that we didn't support each other to be better. I think they would be rolling over that to see that there was so little investment in the youth and in our future because that's so important. They would be the jaw dropping, amazed that we were not fostering legacy for our young people, that they were not hungry to learn, and they would be really shocked that young people thought so little of themselves. That they would be really shocked about that having had all the access to opportunity, that they think that young people think so little of themselves and are striving to be rather than striving to make a difference and to help someone. So many young people now say they want to be famous, and I'm like, you want to be famous, and not what I can give, not how I can help my culture, not how I can help my community, but they will just, it's my personal brand of wanting to be famous. So I think that they would really be shocked at the lack of community, the lack of integrity, the lack of family. They would really be shocked by that.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. I think back to my grandparents. So both my grandfathers were coal miners in the north of England. My grandma on my dad's side was in service. She worked in a large house for another family, and my other grandmother was stayed at home. And I think they would, and my granddad would always wear a shirt and tie, no matter what he was doing. He would always wear a shirt and tie. He'd always get sort of shaved in the evening and sort of go out for his two drinks, whatever, and come home. Yeah, and I think they'd be surprised at just the, I don't know, just almost the casualness in which
Exactly. They
we're
would be
walking
shocked
into
at
negativity,
how
I think.
casual we are. Like,
Yeah.
I was raised, you go out, how to sit in a nice restaurant, how to carry yourself,
Yeah.
how as a young woman I would have some modesty, be fashionable, but
Mm.
all my boobies didn't have to be out all the time. They weren't for everyone. But now there's not that sense of dignity of a woman being dainty. I think my grandmother, and my aunts would be really shocked at how women are being so objectified and they're okay with it. After all the fight that women did of all cultures
Mm.
to be able to have jobs and have opportunity, and now it's like we've gone backwards. More everything is so sexualized. So it's just unbelievable to me. And we're happy with it. And there's nobody complaining, which just shocks me. And they would be doubly
Yeah,
shocked.
I just think I think the almost the biggest issue is in yes, pop music and media and life and whatever is very sexualized. But I think almost the biggest issue is I don't think people even notice anymore. It just is. It's not shocking anymore, which is that's when it becomes very difficult. When it's not someone you sort of say, well, I can't believe what she wore, or what he wore, or what they said, or what she wore. And I go on a bus or a train or a coach, and there'll be youngish, young teenagers around me. And every other word is a curse word. And certainly when I had young children, I would sort of say, look, come on, you don't need to talk like this. And they'd look at me askance as if, what? I can't believe anybody's ever said anything to me about that. It's just not shocking anymore, which is the scary thing. Once something starts to lose its ability to shock, then I think it's a difficult situation to be in.
Well, then they keep stretching it. Everyone keeps stretching the
Yes.
boundaries. I think we have to develop a voice where we say no more.
Mm.
Parents have to say no more. I don't want my kids exposed to this. Right? School teachers have to say no more. We want better for the kids that we teach when they leave. Right? I think we have to change the collective voices in our communities to say, no, this is not good. We shouldn't have 4 and 5-year-olds trying to shake and twerk, you know?
Yeah. When when did you know that care and confidence, health collection? When did you know that this was going to be your career path? Was there a particular moment, or it's just something you always felt drawn towards? What pulled you towards this calling?
Well, it's been an evolution, quite
Mhm.
honestly, because I've been a nurse a long time. So when I honestly graduated from high school, there were really only 5 things that a young girl was going to be guided to do: work in a factory,
Mhm.
get married out of high school, become a social worker, a teacher, or a nurse. And so the married and factory were not me. That was not in my DNA. That I said, oh no. And so my mother was a nurse,
Mhm.
and I had grown up around other nurses and going to the hospital with her and polishing her shoes and cleaning her hats at the time when they wore them. And I said, I can do that. I think this is something I can do. And my mother was very clear. When you were 18, you were on your own. Go hit it. I've put every I've fostered. I've shown you how to live. You need to go do it. Don't come back. So she gave me luggage for my high school graduation. But so I started off, being a staff nurse, and then, which I loved, but over time I realized I had other skills. And like the COVID pandemic also helped foster the skills I had developed, which led me to doing the trauma informed care training
Yeah.
and awareness work that I do now. But I've been a nurse 40 years. That's I only generally admit 20 publicly, but because I making new friends here on this podcast, I'll tell my truth. But I feel 29 in my heart, and so yeah, I'm just keeping going.
And have you found that the healthcare environment particularly for nurses? Has it got more demanding and more difficult over the decades?
Oh, absolutely yes. One, because the work is just harder.
Yes.
There's more technology, there are more meds, there's more to know, there's more to
Yeah.
be accountable for. In addition, you have a public that is more demanding because healthcare is expensive. And
Mhm.
so when people are in, they're afraid and they don't know how it's going to impact them financially. Are they going to leave? They have a lot of fears, and they're benchmarking the care that you are giving them with what they have seen on social media and the TV shows. And you might be laughing, but people don't necessarily separate what they see on TV from what they expect in reality. And that places another demand. And then people come to the hospital, with their smartphones. So while you're trying to care for them, they're also Googling everything, which people have a right to empower themselves, but you need to be accurate. So nurses have to be accurate and on point. And people will video you while you're caring for them. And I've seen, I said, "Man, please don't video me, but I got to know what you're doing." Yeah, but you can't just video me like that. Or they take pictures. I remember I wasn't the nurse, but I was with a director of nursing, and she was just talking. She said, "I got a big problem." She said she sent me this PowerPoint presentation, not of my patient, but of somebody else's patient, that the family had taken, with the patient not having the call light by their table, all these things. And they had presented this PowerPoint presentation to the organization as part of their complaint. So there's all these things. It is much harder. People are coming much more complicated, coming to the hospital more complicated. They're much have higher demands because of cost, and because we're in a society where everyone's kind of amped up. Everybody's just mad,
Yeah.
and they don't even know why they're mad. So you're there, they're sick, and it's
Mm. And it's hard, isn't it? Because 50 years ago, we went to hospital and they made us better or didn't make us better. And now, if we lived to sort of 60, we thought we were doing pretty well. Whereas now, the challenge now is that because there have been so many amazing, wonderful technological technological advances, we almost expect you're going to cure me. I'm going to come in with whatever, and you're going to get me fixed up and get me out of here, sort of, quick, smart. And there are still, there are still lots of things that can't be cured. And I think, yeah, people sort of expect, they watch ER, they expect to see George Clooney next to their bedside, and they're often disappointed. It's
mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do they say? A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I
It
think when people
is.
think
It,
they know
it can
something,
be. It can be.
mm,
We want to empower patients. We want to
of course.
have them engage in their care.
Mm,
Um, but we have to, it's a give and take. You have to give us a chance
mhm,
to. So it's just how do you just managing that, navigating that with your patients while you support them during a difficult time, because it's
mm,
not easy to be sick. Yet there are many, many demands of a nurse. I mean, the complexities in care that are just pretty intense.
yeah.
It's good work. It's great work. I've been doing it a long time, but it
Mm.
has changed.
What have you seen been the biggest changes for you personally since COVID in what you do and yeah, your day-to-day work?
Well, I think since COVID, I've
Mm,
seen a more casual. People are more casual. They're about their work. The In general, the sense of practice and pride has kind of changed. The commitment, the qual, to I just, it's my patient, and that heart of being and pride in being a healthcare provider. It's changed. It's kind of changed. But it's not just healthcare. You see it across that attitude across many disciplines. People just are not as engaged. Retention, engagement across multiple industries is challenging.
mm. It's like we were saying before before we hit record, I think when you and I sort of left school, we'd go into a job and potentially you would be in the same job, same career until we're retired. Whereas now, I think a lot of people go into it assuming, well, I'll do this for 2 years, do that for 3 years, this for 5 years, and they just sort of pop up. Which is, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I think there's not that right. I'm gonna be the best I can in this and just keep getting better and better and better and better. It's I'll do a bit of this, bit of that, bit of this, bit of that. And again, it's not. I'm not saying anybody should be in the same job for 40 years, but I think a lot of that is the issue that you're not in something long enough to really feel pride for it, which I think is, yeah, I don't think that's a good thing necessarily.
But the other thing is that companies are not necessarily there for the employees either.
They're not. They're not. No.
Mergers, we see more and more mergers, more acquisitions. I read an article recently that said the Alphas and the Gen Zs are going to change jobs maybe 15 to 16 times and change careers 5 to 7. So, I mean, that is kind of daunting to me.
Absolutely.
And I think so. How do you, I don't know if that fosters engagement, right? And will it foster trust? I'm not sure that it does. So, yeah, Gen Z is expected to change careers roughly 3 times. Now, changing careers, not even changing jobs, and switching roles every 1 to almost 2 years. So it's going to, and some of the jobs that they're going to do, we can't even tell them what they are yet because technology is changing at such a rapid rate. So I do not think it's solely because people don't want to commit. It's just that the landscape of employment has changed, that the employers are not committing either. So it just leaves this, sense of uncertainty in this landscape.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I said before, I've got a 16-year-old son and a 19-year-old daughter, both of whom are wonderful. And as a parent, you want to, again, children don't necessarily listen to the parents, but you want to be able to perhaps guide them or suggest things or offer guidance around a potential career path, all those sort of things. And because it's so hard to know what jobs will even exist in 10 years' time, what I find is happening now is that the things that I'm advising them to do are almost more the old-fashioned personal relationship side of things. So have a good handshake, be able to talk to anybody, be able to have a conversation, be respectful, all the things that you almost think, gosh, that's old-fashioned stuff. They're the things now I think that almost differentiate from something else. And one thing I love about my son is that our neighbors are 86 and 81, and he can as easily have a conversation with them as he can with his friend's 7 or 8-year-old brother. And I think being able to just actually talk to somebody, look at them, have an interest in what they're talking about without looking at your phone, sadly, is quite a rare ability these days. So whilst I can't say to my children, here's what I think you should do for a job, what I can say is, here's what I think are some of the human skills that AI can't replace, that technology can't take away from us. So they're the things I think to lean into, really. I wondered what you thought about that.
Well, I think that that's good. I also would tell them, look, you're really trying to get through the next 5 to 10 years. You're not trying to see into the future for 20. That's just not going to happen. But what can you do in the next 5 to 10 years that can really set you up for the future? So perhaps you'll stay home. You might want to live at home for 5 years and bank your money so that, I'm just throwing out, like, if you can make 50,000 a year at Starbucks or something, being a barista, and have, at the end of 5 years, you can have $100,000 saved up. That'll change your life, right?
Yeah.
So let's do that. And then if you want to then get a trade or something, but I don't think you want to go into debt. I don't think that it makes sense to, I think college has to change. So, I digress, but I think that the whole college system has been created to support the careers of career educators. It is not shaped to really educate our children. Because if it really were, they wouldn't be going 4 years. They only need to go 2, because wouldn't need 2 years of electives. Information I can get on the internet.
Yeah.
I can learn to write with Grammarly. Let me teach myself how to write. We can change the cost, and we can change. I don't think you have to lose the rigor, but I don't think it really necessarily takes 4 years when you've already gone through elementary school, junior, what we call middle school, and high school, paid for by the taxpayers. Why are we making people pay a whole lot of money after that? We should be helping lift them at a
Mm.
lower cost.
Mm.
So I tell them to go save your money. Whatever you can do, be a barista, whatever you want to do, stay at home, bank your money, live frugally for 5 years. If you do it right out of high school, you'll be like 23 years old with a nice savings that you can then consider where you're going to buy a home, invest in yourself. You can really change your whole life, because it's not about stuff. It's
No.
about quality. Because you can see kids, I've got, my mother's 90. I've moved her 5 times in her adult life, and since she became older, as had more care needs. But I watched her work her whole life for our house, a house full of furniture, 3 fur coats, all these things she wanted, right? Just to be downsized into a room that you don't pick.
Yeah.
Because she's in a memory care unit now,
Yeah.
you know.
No, my mum died a couple of years ago. My dad died last year, and it's the same. You work all your life for this stuff, and then in the end, my mum was in a dementia care home, and she was in a room there, and she didn't have anything with her, just because she didn't recognize anything. So all the things that she strived for, that and I wonder how in the work that you do, a lot of it is about helping people be more confident and to have true inner confidence. And I wonder, how do you help people move from maybe self-doubt or comparison to other people? How do you help them move from that to a position where they have real confidence?
Mhm. Well, I think first I help them by writing down why do you think you don't?
Yeah.
And where are you getting your messages from? A lot of times people are getting their messaging from social media. They're scrolling. And you're scrolling your way. Why are you getting your messages from people who you don't know, who don't pay your bills, who are not engaged and invested in your betterment? People lie all the time. Just stop infusing that bad information into yourself. Just stop. You'll feel better just by doing that. And then are there people in your life that you need to move? Maybe you're in relationships that really don't foster you. So you're
Mm.
believing those lies. So the first thing is to stop stop the comparison role cycle, and really take a good look at yourself and make a choice, right? Confidence really is about making a choice that I'm going to speak well and believe well of myself, and releasing other people from having to validate you. You have to free yourself from the need of other people validating you, and you have to free the people around you as well. True enough, we all have to own and be accountable for our behaviors, right? And so if I know I don't, if I want to know how am I being read, how am I showing up, I'm going to ask somebody I trust. Because I know I'm a human being. I might not have shown up like I wanted to, but then I'm going to go apologize. But I also, if I thought I didn't, but if I know I'm good, I'm going to have to just own, okay, I'm comfortable with that, because everyone isn't going to like you. I mean,
Mm.
everyone isn't. Life is not a continual popularity contest like we make it on social media. So you've got to choose to be good. It's really about making a choice and deciding where you're getting your information. And everything everybody says isn't true. And people criticize you all the time based on their own insecurities, not necessarily yours. Your truth, but based on where they are. And I don't own everybody's stuff. That's another piece. You cannot own everybody's stuff.
So, what does your own self-belief practice look like? Do you ever have moments where you still feel slightly an imposter, or you still feel negative towards yourself? What do you do to keep yourself strong and grounded?
My faith, my faith, I am a Christian, and I'm really engaged in my church and my faith, my faith community, and that is really where I'm grounded, because my belief about myself comes from what God says about me in His Word, and I hold on to that.
Are you seeing more people drawn towards faith when they sort of? Because I look at how difficult things are in across the world, and it's often times like this where we look for something greater than ourselves, your God, or whatever your own vision of a higher being is. Are you seeing more people drawn into faith in your community, in your church?
In my faith community, we are seeing growth. And I think that, uh, yeah, I think we are seeing growth. And in my own life, people, I'm really consistent.
Hmm.
So I always say that you know what you're going to get when you see me. Yeah, I'm really consistent. And so because I am consistent in the spheres where I live, people will often say, well, ask me questions. And Melanie, I know that you have a life of faith. I know that you pray. Will you pray for me? Will you pray for my friend? Will you give me guidance? So it does, because I am consistent. I think you have to live what you believe. I think talk is cheap. And
Yeah.
people don't care what you have to say. They really don't. They're really watching how you live. And so your life, I feel like my life is the best billboard of what I believe, and that's how I draw people. But Bible says, with loving kindness will I draw them. That's what the word says. And so I hope that by my belief is that as I'm kind and loving and I live out what I believe, that I'll draw people to me and I can encourage them.
Because it does feel that we are, and it's very hard to compare today to 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago. It does feel that we are perhaps almost more divided, certainly than I can remember in my lifetime. And are you hopeful that we will somehow come together again, or are you nervous about what the future might hold?
No, I'm not nervous. I'm very confident in the God that I serve and in my Savior. So we live by faith and not by sight. And my faith is in His Word. And so I'm not fearful at all. I'm very confident in who I believe. Um, and I am. And so I don't think faith over fear. I like that. Faith over fear. And that is where I stand. That's my
I like
line
that.
in the sand.
No, I like that. Hmm. One of the things you do, you speak and consult on trauma informed leadership, psychological safety, and I wonder, as you talk to leaders or you see leaders in business across all different types, whether it be healthcare or education, whatever,
Mhm.
what do you think the behaviors are that perhaps erode safety, psychological safety, even when that might not necessarily be the intention? Sometimes you touched on it already, I think, about how we behave is how we are and how we should be believed. So, are there behaviors that leaders bring that maybe undermine the psychological safety of their teams?
Well, I believe when leaders do not take the time to set boundaries around work for themselves,
Yep.
and they become burned out, and they don't recognize the burnout and what exhaustion, how they show up because they're exhausted, that causes them to not show up well for their teams and trigger behaviors, create trauma and environments that do not support psychological safety, because
Mhm.
they have not taken care of themselves. They've not rested. They're doing emails at 6 o'clock at night. They're working all weekend. And so one, are tired and exhausted, and then they've told their teams that because I'm sending you all this stuff off hours, that I'm expecting you to do the same, which increases the team's anxiety. Oh, I gotta respond. I'm with my child at my child's birthday party, but my boss is sending me this email. So I think we have to be conscious, one, of how leaders have to be conscious of their own burnout, and they need to take care of themselves. They have to be sensitive to how they're teaching and training their teams by their own behavior. And finally, I think that leaders have to be aware of their own triggers. You have to know when you're triggered. Did something that your leader said trigger you? Does a certain personality type on your team trigger you? Are you shorter with some team members than you are with others? Do you innately, are you drawn to some of your team members and less to others because they talk more, they engage more? But and you minimize the person that doesn't, but it isn't that because the person that doesn't necessarily have skills. They have maybe never been given the support
Mm.
and the confidence and the validation that I want to hear your voice. So I believe that leaders have to be sensitive to, and leaders have to be sensitive to the fact that their team members may have had a trauma. So that in the United States, our Center for Disease Control estimated before the pandemic that over 67% of all Americans had at least one adverse childhood experience. Now you add the pandemic on top of that, and you have a whole world that's been had some kind of trauma. So you have to be sensitive that everywhere you go, almost 70% of all the people in the grocery store, at your job, in the bank, in your faith community have had a trauma. So you don't want to trigger them. You don't know what it is. So be kind and over communicate and be sensitive so that you are supporting the psychological safety of everyone, even though you don't know their particular trauma. You have to be aware that it's in the house.
And did you ever come up against people that were, what's the right word, resistant to trauma informed care, or perhaps maybe that's because they didn't understand it. But did you come across people that were no, we don't need this. That's not how we operate.
Yeah, because the whole framework around trauma informed care is to consider what has happened to you, not what is wrong with you when we encounter a behavior that we don't understand. And there are
Mm.
some leaders that feel like we don't bring that stuff to work. Work is work. And people
Yes.
should leave their personal life at work, but people don't. They don't leave their kids at the door because they came to work. They don't leave their parents at the door. They don't leave their financial struggles at the door. They bring it and they try to just show up, but it doesn't hurt a leader to say, "Hey, we know this happened in our community. Is anyone affected? We know that this war is going on and it's affecting gas prices. How are you doing? We recognize you might be under financial strain. We just want to acknowledge that we're here for you. You know, just to be human. People aren't
Mm.
leaving it at the door. It's showing up somewhere."
No, I like that notion of understanding that we can't compartmentalize our lives to such a degree where it's like, right, that's 1 hour with the kids. Now next, right, that's 8 hours of work. Right, next 1 hour, and because like I say, everything, because for many people, work doesn't finish at 5 o'clock. They have their smartphones, they have their email, they have whatever, and they are emailing or messaging or whatever, or even just thinking about work. Or but then when they're at work, they're thinking about their sick child, or they're thinking about the argument they have with their husband or their wife or whatever. We don't. Yeah, we're not a computer program. We don't just do one thing, stop that, and do the next thing, and stop that, do the next thing. Everything
No, it's too
quite
complicated.
holistic, isn't it?
It is much more. My parents used to go to work and come home, and at
Mm.
home they came home. We had dinner. We watched 6 o'clock news. Then we went to bed. It
Yeah,
was a much simpler life, but there
yeah.
wasn't anything else. There wasn't email. There wasn't the internet.
Mm.
Um, there weren't. We didn't have two cars. So it was different. We didn't have call waiting. I think you had to when you. Oh, I grew up on a dial phone, so when someone was talking, it was busy. You got a busy signal. Yeah,
Yeah.
imagine that. You have to wait.
Mm.
And so it was different. It is not
Mm.
so now.
Mm. One of the funny things to do as a parent of teenagers is go to a shop that's not even an antique shop, just a thrift shop or something, and ask your child, how do you make a phone call on this phone with a dial on it? And they normally get the dial right, but they don't know about picking the phone up first and then doing the dial. It's amazing. Well, gosh, something that we lived our life by, this dial phone. They've got no idea, but because they're so technologically advanced. But almost asking them to go backwards in time to how do you think we managed this? They would never be able to
I
make a
mean,
phone
yeah,
call
they don't
again.
they don't know about the operator.
No,
Oh,
no,
the operator?
no,
Use the 0 button operator. They don't know about a phone book when
no,
you can
no.
Google it. They Do you remember when even when someone ran the elevator in the
Yeah.
stores? May I help you? They'd take you.
My first grown up job was in a big department store in London called Harrods, and when I started there, we had 8 elevator operators. They would go in and say, "What floor do you want?" And they'd do the lever and stuff, and then they can't imagine actually having somebody sitting in the elevator all day, just taking you up and down. But now it's just, well, I mean, technological. Some things are good. I'm not saying that life wasn't perfect back then. Of course, it wasn't. But there are things then that people now couldn't sort of comprehend really.
But it
One of
was
the things that's
simple.
very
There was
one
a
of the things very
simpler aspect of it and a humility about it.
it was. I think perhaps we were more aware of other people, maybe. Even though now we have the ability to see into the life that they portray online, and the
They
life that they
curated.
say they
Their
live.
curated life.
A curator, perfect. Yeah. Whereas before, I think we were more aware of people and what their lives were actually like. Whereas now, you wouldn't know if somebody was really struggling or really successful or whatever, because they'll put out the same story on their Instagram page or whatever they tend to use. It, you pick the word perfectly, curator. Well,
But you
one
had
thing I say
neighbors in a different way too. Like
we did
I had the
well.
same neighbors all my life. But when I went to college, Mama said, "You home from college, you need to go say hi to all the neighbors. They want to hear from you. So you need to go to Mr. Anderson's house. You need to
Absolutely.
go, to Mr. Waddleson's house. They all need to see you."
Mm,
So that's what you did because they were
mm,
all rooting for you, right?
mm.
They were all
Yeah,
rooting for you
absolutely.
to do it. And I had the experience that they were not able to have. So they were rooting for me. And I needed to go respect the fact that they were rooting for me. And my mama said, go see them. I went to see everyone all week. And I stayed as long as they wanted me to stay. And if they told me to clean their house while I was there, I was going, they find something for you to do. Baby, can you move this? Baby, can you clean that? That's what I did.
Mm.
But it was community. The point is
It was,
that it was community.
and the community then that was our extended family in many ways. And again, I can remember growing up knowing all the neighbours. Whereas you move house and you go to work very early in the morning, come back very late at night. You just never see each other. Everybody just drives their cars everywhere, and you don't get to know. You can ask people the name of their 4 nearest neighbours. A lot of people,
They
80
don't
percent of
know.
people wouldn't know who they are. No, it's which is a shame. One thing that's very obvious that you obviously have a lot of empathy and the ability to empathize very deeply. And I wonder how you ensure that the empathy you have for somebody doesn't tip over into it becoming your responsibility to fix things. I wonder how you sort of manage to set boundaries sounds quite cold, but how you manage to bring empathy to a conversation, to a relationship without feeling the need or stepping too far, if that makes sense.
Well, I think first of all, you know that when I was younger, I used to think I had to solve everybody's problems, and
Yeah.
that was overwhelming. But as you grow, as you mature, you realize people make choices. And I do feel very deeply, but I can't care more deeply than you. And so understanding you have to be sensitive to how invested is the person you care about, how invested are they in their change?
Mm.
And everyone has to have some skin in the game, right? So I
Yeah.
can care about you and offer you support, but you have to do something too. And so I think over time I've learned to ask better questions, to be more observant, and to understand that people take time, and generally more time than you want, but I can't move faster than someone's willing to go with me. So I just have learned to read the room, read the person, and understand that sometimes it's time, and sometimes some people plant the seed, some people water the plant, and some people get the harvest. So sometimes I'm just the seed planter.
Mm.
Someone else might water. Sometimes I'm the harvester. It just depends on where you're falling into a person's life to help them.
Mm. One thing you talked about is what you call stop and scan, sort of pausing to notice what's happening inside. And I wonder how do you use that in your life? Because for a lot of us that might want to help people, might want to empathize, might want to support people, there is that risk of overload, or that we risk almost becoming part of the problem rather than part of the solution. So how do you take time to notice how you're feeling and what you need from life?
Well, I really do set time on my calendar to rest.
Hmm.
I try to schedule 3 days. I try to only work 4 days a week, or be busy 4
Yeah.
days a week, and give myself a long weekend. Like I hardly ever schedule anything on Fridays or after 12 on Fridays, so
Hmm.
that I have the weekend to reflect, to read. I build time in my day where I'm going to reflect, read, so that I don't I want to go the distance, right? And I want to live well long. And so I have to give myself those pauses, understanding that though I feel like I'm 29, I have the energy of being 29, I'm not. And so I need to pace myself accordingly. And so I really
Mm.
do I build it into my schedule. How the time to scan, understand what's happening in my life, to tell myself the truth, you know, to own my yeses and my nos, and to prioritize my health and my well-being, and to be intentional about taking care of myself so that I do thrive and thrive well at 29 for the third time.
Mm. And where does the happiness come in your life? What brings you the most happiness?
My faith, because the joy of the Lord is my strength. Even a song. The joy, the joy of the Lord is my strength. That's a song too, but it really is in that, and being so grateful that He has created me and allows me to pour into people. He's allowing me even to be on this podcast with you. It's such an honor. And so, I love my husband. I've been married almost 38 years, and he brings me joy. I love him. Just like when we first got married. I love him. So I love the Lord and I love my husband.
Nice. I think a lot of people, I think, particularly those that work in what might be qualified as a caring profession, sometimes feel guilty for prioritizing their needs sometimes. And I wondered how you can gently challenge somebody that believes that self care is almost selfish. Because the way I look at it is, if you're ever on an airplane and they say, if your oxygen masks fall down, always put your own on first before you help somebody else. So I was thinking of that. I think, well, you've got to be energized, healthy, well before you can actually then help. If I'm not well, I can't look after my children. If I'm not well, I can't support my wife, whatever. And I wonder how. But some people think, oh no, I've got to keep going, and they almost think that spending time caring for myself is, well, that's just selfish. I should be spending time with other people. How do you gently challenge that that's the wrong way to think?
Well, self care is the new health care. Yeah.
Okay.
Self care is the new health care. If
Hmm.
you are not taking care of yourself, so that you ideally minimize your exposure to the healthcare system, you're not taking care of yourself. One, because it's costly, it's painful, it reduces the quality of your life. So you might as well take care of yourself. Two, when you are in a healthcare serving profession, right, when you are in that in that 8-hour, 12-hour shift or mode. Yeah, you're giving it your best,
Yeah.
caring for your people, your patients the best that you can. But then it's important that when you clock out, you then have another part of your life. All of our identity should not come from just the work that we do. So if you value your whole self, who you are as a parent, who you are as a husband, who you are as a friend, who you are as a son or daughter, then you understand you have to take care and prioritize your whole self so that you show up in the other segments of your life, because those people need you too. And you want to go the distance. You cannot care for someone if you are sick. So
Mm.
self care is health care and it's wisdom.
I'm going to use that. Self-care is the new healthcare. Yeah, I'm gonna plagiarize that
Feel free.
with Elam. It's so if we are together, and you've been kind enough to invite me to your 90th birthday party, many years to come. But what do you hope people are going to be saying in the speeches they're making about you?
I hope that they'll say, she pushed me to do something I would not have done. She pushed me to get my degree. She pushed me to start my business. She pushed me to get my children in a particular camp. She encouraged me. She was kind to me. She invested in me. I am different. My life is better now because of something she told me, did for me, supported me in doing. And that they, most importantly, they'll say, we know that she was a woman of faith and she loved the Lord. And because of her, I now love the Lord. That's most important.
It's going to be a good party. I can tell.
Thank
What,
you.
just a couple more questions, if that's okay. And these might be the hardest ones, or they might not. But I guess it's almost just ask the question. Just split the question into two parts. So one would be: Do you have a view or a plan as to what the future holds for you? And then secondly, do you have a view or a thought as to what the future holds for society?
My view for myself
Mm-hmm.
is that I will continue to live as a kingdom dweller, one who believes, continues to believe and pray that others will come to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior. Because I do believe that this is not my eternity. And that's the other reason I'm so joyful. This is not the end for me. This is just the beginning. And I want other people to have a joyful eternity as well. And um, I believe that the world will will have a reckoning in what they choose, if they have chosen to believe in Jesus or if they have chosen not. And so, but the Bible tells us that Jesus is the victor. So all who follow him, it's a solid end. So what is the timeline? I have no idea. I believe it's more important to live in the moment, to do what we can right now, to be encouraging and loving and share our faith. And I trust that God will follow his timeline and give everyone who desires to know him an opportunity to do so.
Do you ever have any doubts or waver in your faith? Because if you look at a lot of people,
No,
they might look at
no,
the planet, look around, and
mm-mm.
things aren't so great today.
No. But
Um,
so you understand that things are not great because God gave the believer the authority
yeah.
to, and so so circumstances don't change who God is, right?
Hmm.
So circumstances don't change what's in your heart. We're
Hmm.
all spirit. Uh, and where your spirit will live eternally depends on who you believe in. But the circumstances, those who believe, like I believe in Jesus, I have a relationship. So Jesus is real to me. I have
Hmm.
a relationship with him through his word. and by his spirit as I pray and walk with him. So he's real. It's not an object, idol, or cross that I'm looking at. He's a real person that I have a relationship with. So I don't waver. Like, you can't waver me on my husband, Victor. Victor is my husband. I know who he is. I love him. And Jesus is just as real to me and important as my life is my husband, and he's real. He's not an inanimate object. So I'm not troubled by what I see in the world, because I understand what his word says, and what the ultimate end result is, that he is the victor. He overcomes sin. Jesus overcomes anger. Jesus is love. And so it's about what I know about him in my spirit, not what I see in just pure circumstances. Because we are in a battle. There is a force of evil out there, right? It is, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have rule.
Hmm.
It doesn't have rule for me, and this is not my eternity.
No, that's probably the best way I've heard that explained, really. Because people have often asked me, but well, we look at what's happening and you look at what's happening in the world. But I think if you almost divorce that from the relationship and belief you have with Jesus, it becomes a very different situation. Because exactly as you say, I know that my wife is my wife, and yes, there'll be some days are not good days, some days are bad days, some days are great days, but it doesn't change the fact that I know she's my wife, and I know that relationship that we have is a true relationship, and that's a really powerful way of explaining it. No,
And I
thank you.
spend time with them. So you got to spend time. Like any relationship is built on time, right? You've been with your wife, you know each other, you know her nuances. I know Victor's nuances. He knows mine, because we've walked together and we've spent that kind of time where we can have that same kind of level of intimacy with my Lord and Savior, by my spending time with him in prayer, in intercession for others, in his word. And so that intimacy builds and grows, and it builds your confidence in who he is and his love for me, and the love I want to share with others. His love that I want to share with others.
My final question would be: so somebody listening to this, hopefully many people listen, but somebody listening to this has heard what you said and absorbed it, and if they thought, what's one thing I could do this week that would make a positive difference in the world? What is the one thing you would say to somebody? Here's what you can do this week that's going to make a difference to somebody else.
Well, the first thing you have to do is to know that where your soul is. What is your decision?
Mhm.
What do you really believe in?
Mm.
If you've not invited Christ into your heart as your Lord and Savior, then you can just invite him in. Jesus, I need you, come into my heart. I want to live for you. That's simple. You can invite Jesus into your heart on the toilet, in the park, riding your bike, wherever you want to be. It's important for you to know where you are. And then when you have made your decision for your eternity, then you have something eternal to give someone else. Now, if you're not interested, if you have changed and born again through Jesus, then you have something eternal and of life and value, real value, to give to someone else. If you that person listen and say, "Oh, I don't want that Jesus stuff. I don't want to believe in that." That is totally up to you. Then what you can do for someone is just be kind, and kindness is free.
Perfect. That was perfect ending. Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation. I could talk to you for many more hours, but no, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you so much for having me.
no, it was a real. I didn't know what to expect, and like when you're not sure what to expect, and you're surprised in a positive way, it always feels so much better. So no, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.